Here's the third vision, and we won't be able to go through all the visions, but I will give you a little bit about each one of them. But look at verse 20. And the Lord showed me 4 craftsmen. And I said, what are these coming to do? And he said, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, so that no man lifts up his head. But these craftsmen have come to terrify them, to throw down the horns of the nations. Remember, horn is always a symbol of power and all that in the Scriptures. To throw down the horns of the nations who have lifted up their horns against the land of Judah in order to scatter it. Now, this is a neat one, because this third vision, I wrote down your notes, it's about God will expose and repay all wrongs. But listen, this talks about the destruction of the Gentile nations that had destroyed Israel. Which ones? Well, this one's a lot easier. Medo-Persians came in and toppled Babylon. So they were the first horn. The Medo-Persians directly flattened Babylon, which had so pillaged Judah. Remember, it says Judah. It's the southern kingdom. So we don't even worry about Assyria in this. Secondly, Greece, under Alexander the Great, crushed Persia. So see, here's Judah, the southern kingdom, and the Babylonians come along, and they murderously destroy the city and carry away the people into slavery. And they go home, and they're sitting there, and all of a sudden, while Belshazzar is drunk, remember, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin, and the hands writing up on the wall, and he's drunk and shaken, and that night, the Persians came and wiped out Babylon. That was horn number 1. Persians are all heady, and they think they're the greatest thing. They have 1 million people in their army, and big deal. So Alexander the Great comes along with 30,000 troops and wipes them out. Isn't that amazing? He conquered the whole world with only 30,000 troops. He was a brilliant tactician. I mean, he really was good at what he did. So the second horn, I think, was Greece under Alexander. But then Rome was the third horn, because Greece came and terrorized Judah and gave them a hard time. And so Rome came and crushed the Greeks. What's the fourth one? Well, I believe this. The fourth horn is going to be the future power. Now, what does it say? It says they're carpenters or craftsmen. I don't think it's a mistake that Jesus is called the carpenter from Nazareth, because the ultimate craftsman is going to come. He's going to squash the whole world that is trying to attack in the last days his people. And so we see that God will expose and repay all wrongs. The fourth vision, that's in chapter 2, it's this surveyor. And you can see that I lifted up my eyes, and there was a man with a measuring line in his hand. And he said, where are you going? He said, I'm going to measure Jerusalem and check it out. And all that is about God having future plans for Israel. Do you know how I know every time I go down 91st Street or 81st Street or 71st Street or 61st Street, something's going to happen? What do you start seeing? Those little orange things, on those little wooden things. They're out there, doing their surveying work, and something's going to happen when they do that. They're showing that they're going to do something to that land. Here comes a surveyor looking over Jerusalem, and he's measuring it, and God says, I have got plans for this place. I'm going to do something here. God has future plans for Israel. The fifth vision is in chapter 3, and this is beautiful. He showed me Joshua the high priest, 3:1, standing before the angel of the Lord, and saw Satan standing at his right hand to accuse him. Now, isn't this interesting? This is a little insight into what's going on. We can only see each other tonight. But did you know that when you and I are standing serving the Lord, that Satan or his minions are right there accusing us? And see, God, and again, remember, we put God off there, somewhere beyond the blue, my treasures are laid up somewhere beyond the blue. But actually, God's not out there somewhere beyond Andromeda, somewhere over in the, far-off Dagobah system. God is right here. You realize that we are right now in front of him? The scriptures say that we are before the eyes of the Lord at all times. And so, just if you want to think about it this way, this area up here could be God's throne. I mean, if you can just for a minute imagine a beautiful glassy crystal sea, and with it looks like lightning pulsating through the crystal, you can see that, and it's kind of a bluish color, and then there's this throne, and then there's one sitting on the throne from whose face heaven and earth flee away. That's right there. We're right here. Do you think about that very often? Do you think about the fact he's sitting there watching right now, us? And while we're doing our work, Satan is standing at his right hand to accuse him. And the Lord said to Satan, the Lord rebuke you, Satan. Indeed, the Lord who has chosen Jerusalem rebuke you. Is this not a brand plucked from the fire? By the way, that was John Wesley's life verse. Because when he was a little tiny boy, with his 13 or 19 or however many brothers and sisters he had, their house caught on fire. And he was left upstairs. And he crawled to the window. And the whole house was burning, and pieces of it were falling down. It was starting to collapse. And at the last minute, he jumped out, and they caught him, and he was saved. And that was his life verse to his last days. A brand plucked from the fire. But you know what? That's what all of us are. We're all headed to the fire. And when we come to Christ, he pulls us out, away from where we're headed. But this is a picture of Joshua the high priest. And basically, this whole fifth vision is about God will cleanse his people. And that though Satan's attacks are constant upon God's people, that God will say that they have the righteousness of Christ. That he or she is clothed in Christ's righteousness. And Satan, you may not attack them. Though they have sinned, Christ's blood, as Wesley's song says, strongly pleads for us.